They missed it there. And so they're very much like each one of us, right? So I'm looking at myself when I'm looking at them, and I still see God calling them and God using them. So that kind of gives me hope for myself anyway. Also, we don't really know who God is. We don't know that much about God. You know, I mean, 400 years, they're in Egypt. We know he's the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, but who is he, right? What is he like exactly? How do you... And so the neat thing about Exodus chapter 3, it opens up a little bit more of who God is. Verse 7, and we've studied chapter 3. I just want to go through 2 verses once again. Verse 7 says, "The Lord said, I have surely seen the affliction of my people. I have heard their cries. I know or I am aware of their sufferings." In that one verse, what puts God far above any other gods, 2,000 gods at least in all of Egypt, our God sees, our God hears, and it says that I know of their sufferings. That word know, or to know them, to know their sufferings and their sorrows, is one of intimacy, intimate knowledge. It's the same word, it's yada in Hebrew. So anybody ever talk a lot and they go, oh, yada, yada, yada? Okay, so in Hebrew that word yada really means to intimately know. So, Abraham knew Sarah and they had Isaac, okay? So you get that. God has this intimate knowledge. And he has seen for 400 years in Egypt, he's seen the whips and he's seen the chains. He's seen the fields and the taskmasters. He saw the look on the parents' face as they took the infant child and flung him into the Nile River. He hurt as they hurt. Okay? He's walking with them in that. He has this intimate relationship with his children. And we forget that. Because when we're going through it, we feel so alone. And I'm sure they felt alone, like, where is God? Why is this happening? But in effect, God, it's hurting God. He feels as they feel. Okay, so that's something about our God that we wouldn't have known before. The second is found in verse 8. It has to do with your calling, your ministry, everything you do in life. Verse 8. I have come down to deliver them from the power of the Egyptians and to bring them up from that land to a good and spacious land, to land flowing with milk and honey. We forget that it's not Moses. This isn't Moses' plan. This isn't how Moses would have done it. We know how he would have done it. He tried and failed 40 years earlier. This is God's plan. God's going to articulate things and work things and move things and have things done according to his plan. Moses is just like the figurehead. He's just the guy that God's going to work through. And that is all God is ever asking us. When he gives you a plan, it's his plan. You're just following the leader. Okay? So that's something that I think, they kind of forgot. The Jews in Jesus' time, like, oh, we're sons of Abraham, we follow Moses and the law. Moses wasn't God. He was just a guy who heard from God and told them, okay? So it's kind of neat to understand that it's out of your hands. We're just followers. Paul said, one plants seed and one waters. We all have our jobs to do, but it is God that causes the growth. It's God that's going to allow those things, awesome things to happen, or sometimes it's dormant. I mean, we don't have a say-so other than being obedient at all times, just to be obedient, okay? God gives Moses his plan. Remember Moses' plan? Kill the Egyptian, just assumed Israel would consider him their deliverer. Who may do judge and ruler? I'm afraid. And so he runs for 40 years. He's in Midian. He's a shepherd with Jethro's flock in Midian. God tells him his plan. Moses, I want you to go to the elders of Israel. Tell them I'm going to lead you guys out of Egypt into this promised land. And then I want the elders of Israel and you to go into Pharaoh's court with Pharaoh and all his wise men in his court and tell him, by the way, Pharaoh, my God says, let your workforce and those people you have in chains go and worship my God. How do you think that's going to work out, right? And so Moses is, of course, worried that they're not going to be receptive. And that's part of our problem as well. God showed me there's only two places you'll ever receive resistance from a plan of God. One is from believers and one is from non-believers. Everyone else is on board. Okay, but believers and so he doesn't know about Israel. They're not really, and obviously the non-believers, the non-children of God. So I titled this sermon, and I don't necessarily, or I don't think I ever really told you titles of my sermons, but the title of this sermon is Excuses, 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 Excuses. Because God is speaking to Moses, and Moses gives him 4 excuses of why he shouldn't be considered for this job. Now, when I was a kid, I just was able to come up with an excuse. If my dad said, boom, I don't know, it just came out of nowhere, you know? You know, anybody like that? You have kids, like, you say something, and wham, somehow they always have a reason. When I was 12 years old, there's like 4 or 5 of us walking, and for no reason, it's like 10 o'clock at night, we're just walking, we go through the houses, and somebody had a little garden on the side of the house, and had this big red tomato. I mean, it was huge. And I stand like, oh man, I can hardly wait to eat that tomato. I just picked the tomato and thought, hey, that tomato, you guys. No kidding, the lights went on, the guy goes, Norman, I thought, how did he know it was me? And I mean, there's 5 of us. But anyway, I took off and I got the tomato, I took off, I thought, get rid of the oven. So I threw the tomato and I'm running home. And I thought, he's gonna call my dad. And so my plan was to run the 6-7 blocks back home before he could, look up our name in the phone book and have the old style dialing, it took a while to get that number through there. And so I'm running, and my thought was, if the phone rang, I'd answer the phone and go, oh, yeah, this is his dad. Okay, I'll get him, whoop, when he gets home, And so that was my plan. And as I'm running, Mike and Paul are like, Norm, what are you going to do when your dad, that guy calls your dad, and what are you going to tell your dad if you don't get there before the phone calls? And I went, I don't know, but I just always think of something. Come on, and just an excuse, right? And so maybe we all have a ready-made excuse of why we should or shouldn't do something. Moses has 4 of them, okay? Now, I think it's hilarious. I hope you don't mind me thinking. Moses is talking to a burning bush who is God, and is arguing with a burning bush who is God. I mean, to me, if I was sitting there, I'm like, that's God. How could you let? Anyway, I just think that's sort of funny, but that's just me. So his first excuse, 2 weeks ago we went over his first excuse, which he says, who am I to go to Pharaoh? Who am I to go to those people? That's a great excuse, right? Who are you to go to your boss? Who are you to go to the CEO? Who are you to go here or there? Who are you to go to your child who's seen you yelling or whatever? To say, oh no, we need to love each other. Who are you to go wherever God is asking you to go? And I understand that. But God reassures Moses that you're not going alone. He says, I will be going with you, Moses. I will be with you every step of the way. Our successes or our failures have nothing to do with us, everything to do with God, and we're just being obedient. Okay? So who am I? I'm nobody. But I am a child of God. I do believe that Jesus has sent me. I believe in his spirit, I believe in his word, and I feel like he has a word for you. So I'm okay with that. Who am I excuse? The second excuse, what if I get there and I tell the elders, hey, I just got done talking to God who's a burning bush, and they go, really? Well, what's his name? What should I tell him? I don't know who you are, God. And so we went over that. God says, I am the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. I am who He tells them, I'm the God of, Jesus explains that he's the God of the living, not the God of the dead. When he says, I am the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, it's present tense. He's still their God. They're still in heaven. There is a resurrection of the dead. And so they believed that way back then, and certainly that's our call today. I believe in God. I know who God is. Now, Moses had some idea who God was before he met him. Because Hebrews says it is by faith in God, it is by faith that Moses, when he had grown up, he refused to be called the son of Pharaoh's daughter, choosing rather to endure ill treatment with the people of God than to enjoy the passing pleasures of sin. He considered the reproach of Christ to be greater riches than the treasures of Egypt, because he was looking to the reward. So Moses understood something about God. And maybe the creation, maybe the flood. Some of the reasons why Israel was in Egypt is because of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and then Joseph. Maybe he understood a bit of the history, but not really who God was. However, at 40 years old, with the limited knowledge he had of God, he thought, I don't want to be in this house with all of these gods. I know none of them are right. I know they're not right. I want to go back to the people who have the one true God. They do know God. Okay? And the interesting thing about that is we don't see any big signs or wonders for him to gravitate to the Jews, to the Israelites, to the Hebrews who are locked up and chained and slaves. He just feels like those are my people because they're God's people. I want to associate myself with them. I don't care about riches and glory and a palace. That's for today, but this will be forever. And so he chooses that life. And God, so God, who do I tell them you are? Because they don't know who I am. They have no idea who I am. I mean, I've been gone for 40 years. But who do I tell them you are? I am Yahweh. I am Jehovah. I am the Lord God. I am the Good Shepherd. I am Emmanuel. I am the great high priest. I am the Word made flesh. I am Jesus Christ. I am the resurrection, the truth, and the life. I am. That's who he is. That's who we have here. That's our Father. The third excuse, brand new excuse. We haven't heard this one. Chapter 4, verse 1. So now God has explained. Moses says, well, what if they won't believe me or listen to what I say? For they may say, the Lord has not appeared to you. Ever feel that way? What if you go tell somebody about Jesus and they go, I don't know, I don't want to tell them about Jesus because what if they don't believe that Jesus is in my heart or something? What if I haven't heard from God? What if, right? And that's a very good excuse. Why would anyone believe Moses? Why would anybody believe you that you are a different person because you've met Jesus? Why? It's a good question. Why would anybody believe what I would have to say? Let me bring Moses' story to present day, okay? I'm driving to a work site last week, and I stop and I notice a hay bale on fire, but it wasn't really on fire. So I get out of my truck, I go through the snow and the ditch, and God speaks to me from the hay bale on fire, because there's no bushes around. And I am like, oh my gosh, this is just like in the book. And he says, Norman, take your boots off, for the snow is holy ground. I take my boots off, and I go see God. I'm like, oh God. And he says, I've seen the affliction of my people in North Korea. I've seen their chains. I've seen that tyrant. I see them in prison and they're mistreated. So many of them even died for my name in North Korea. I want you to go to talk to the president of North Korea and tell him, let my people go. I'm thinking, God, you want me to go to North Korea and talk to Kim Jong-un? He says, yes, Norm, I want you to go talk to Little Rocket Man and tell him, let my people go. I'm like, okay, right? Okay. So I run home and I tell Linda, guess what? And she says, well, you better tell the people in church Sunday. So, hey, guess what I did last week? Would you believe anything I just said? If I said it with a little more, heart. Do you understand what Moses, you understand the place Moses is in? He's in a tough spot. Why would anybody believe that, right? Why would you believe me if I said that? Well, Moses is given something. Moses is given something outside. He says, God says, I'll tell you what, for you I'm going to give you some signs as a testament to people that they would know that it's not you, but it's me. Take that staff, throw it on the ground, watch what happens. It turns into a snake, he picks it up, and it becomes a staff again, right? That was the rest of the verses we did read. And he says, take your hand, put it in your cloak, take your hand out, became leprous, just terrible looking, ready to fall off. You'll put it back in your cloak, take it out, heal. The power of God, the miracle healing power of God. Simple as that, right? I mean, if they don't believe those two, he says, take a pitcher, go to the Nile, dip that pitcher in the Nile, and then pour that water out, and as it hits the ground, that water will turn into blood. That's the testimony, that they can know without any doubt that it was God who gave them this plan. That's his testimony. That's the reason why people will hear you is because of your testimony. Do you know what your testimony is? Do you have a testimony? Do you have something to tell people? Then I go, well then tell me about your God. Why should I believe you? And you go, what do you say? Oh, I don't know. Well, go to church. Come to church with me. And then, well, you know what? They want to hear from you. You're the person that God put in their life, and now you have to give them something, the snake or the leprosy. What did God do in your life? Why are you so sure that they need God in their lives if they don't have it? And you have to convince them with testimony. No, I don't want to downplay testimony. I mean, I wish I could say to people I've come up to and go, oh, do you know, I just feel like God's talking to me. And they went, oh, I am a sinner. Oh, Norm, please say the sinner's prayer. And we say the sinner, oh, when you baptize me in water, yeah, sure, we baptize him in the name of Jesus Christ. I baptize you in the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. And the Holy Spirit comes upon them, they start speaking in tongues and prophesying, and they go on and start doing miracles all over the place in Bible studies and invite everybody. And then all of a sudden we have, 100 churches that are, 1,000 strong, and it's just growing. And I wish that's what it was, but it just isn't. It just isn't. There has been times where God has done some amazing things, and we see that, right? Moses is an exception. The parting of the Red Sea, that's an exception. The 10 plagues, that's an exception. Even in the miracles, not that they don't happen. Obviously, they happen. But that's not what normally happens. Look at what Jesus did, right? He turned water into wine. He fed 5,000. He walked on the water. He calmed the sea. He healed the lame, the blind, the deaf. He raised people from the dead. When Lazarus was raised from the dead after 4 days, people then go, oh, I made a mistake about this guy. He must be the Son of God. When they told the people in church, they said, man, what are we going to do? The whole world's going after him. We got to kill that guy. You know what I'm saying? Miracles aren't always the answer. I mean, it'd be nice. I wish that's what it was. I mean, I'm a visual learner, so that'd be awesome. But it isn't. I'll tell you what really changed the majority of people to start the church. Is when those hard-hearted people went around and they saw those new converts preaching in the streets, and they had such a heart and such a, they just so much passion for the Word of God, and they believed so strongly that Jesus Christ rose from the dead that they were willing to go to prison. They were willing even to die for that belief. It was so strong in their heart. And you remember what they say in the book of Acts about those men and women who are preaching like that and just speaking for the resurrection of Jesus? Those are uneducated people. They didn't have no Bible college. They're not priests and Levites like we are. But did you see that they're uneducated people, but their belief was so strong that thousands, they just kept coming to church daily. Yeah, I know they did miracles, but it was a testimony that brought thousands to the Lord. Testimony. Fourth excuse. This was my excuse. This is why I didn't become a minister until I was 39 years. I was 39 years, 364 days old before I became a minister. Then before I turned 40, just in case you like Matthew. Chapter 4, verse 10 through 12. His last excuse before God is this. Please, Lord, I've never been eloquent, neither recently nor in time past nor since thou hast spoken to thy servant. I am slow of speech and slow of tongue. And the Lord said to him, who has made man's mouth? Who makes him dumb or deaf, seen or blind? Is it not I, the Lord? Now then go, and I will be with your mouth, and I will teach you what you are to say. That's pretty amazing, because that seems to be my excuse. I know I've told you maybe several times, I do not like the stage. Emily and Jordan seem to like the stage, right? They like that. That's just, my wife loves to be in character someplace so she doesn't have to play herself, right? I do not. That is on the low end of any list that I might have of wanting to do that. And so I just thought, I just want to be a good Christian, but I don't want to be a pastor. I don't want to have to stand up. I don't want to have a 30-minute monologue that's supposed to change everybody's hearts and lives so that they can go on for the next week. You know, I don't want to be the guy who's to come up with the answers. If someone says, I got cancer, will you pray for me? You know, or I've got this, or my husband just left me, or, you know, my child just did this. You know, it's like, who am I, God? I've never liked crowds from the beginning of time. And so Moses says, I've never been eloquent of speech. And what he means is, you know, people, when you ask them something, man, they're so quick-witted, okay? When Moses goes into the court, in Pharaoh's court, he's not by himself. It's not just him and Pharaoh. You know, Pharaoh maybe has 100, wise men, mathematicians and religious guys and all priests. Everybody just, and Moses is going to come into that court with all of those people, and as he starts talking, those guys, they're theologians and they're priests and they're going to say this and this and this. And Moses is going to have to come up with an answer. He's like, oh, I'm more of a thinker, not a speaker. I've never been quick-witted. I've never been eloquent of speech. You ever see that, like in presidential debates? There's a big, and some of them, it seems like they answer the same question the same way, no matter what the question is. They kind of go back, like, why don't you say something? You're not saying nothing. And sometimes you ask something else, and wham, they're just like articulate. They can just, they can just read. They're just like wham, 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 and it's almost like they've already, heard the question sometime before. They just get to talk pretty well about those kinds of things. Different. Moses was in the category yada yada. God says it's not what comes out of your mouth. It's not your education level. It's not your social level, your financial level. It's not your marital status. It is none of those things. God just wants you to do what He's asking you to do. God has put His call on the life of the church, and that's who we are, the church. That is our call. And so now it's like, what excuse do you want to give to God that you think is going to go, oh, okay, you're off the hook. Don't worry, don't share with anybody. Don't give, don't go, don't pray, don't read, don't study, don't love, don't be kind, don't help each other out. That's okay. You've given me a great excuse. I wouldn't do that if I was you. I mean, I think I would have a good one. I don't know Korean, so I go, God, I don't know Korean. But my guess is you'd have an interpreter or something hanging out somewhere. Excuses. You ever say, I don't have time. I don't have time to do what God wants me to do. Man, you see how many kids I got? You see my workload? My kids have this, we got sports, we got this, we got school, I got this going on, I got work over here. I don't have time to do other stuff. You ever say, well, Lord, if you're asking me to do this, I'm not really sure what to say. How do you start the conversation? I mean, what am I supposed to say to them? I don't know what to say, right? That's a good excuse, isn't it? How about this? If you say, Lord, I tried that and failed. I was rejected. And that's a big part of it, right? Maybe you have witnessed to somebody, a parent, a child, a coworker or something, and they laugh at you and look at you, or no, they have nothing. And so you fail. You're just like Moses. He tried and failed. You'd be just like Jeremiah, who tried and failed. You'd be like Elijah, who tried and failed. You'd be like Jesus, who tried and failed, or Timothy, or Matthew, or Paul. Or they all tried and they failed. None of them was 100% success. Jesus did not save the whole world. He died for the whole world. But there's a lot of people who were not saved, a lot of people who didn't believe, right? So what should you do? Really, the bottom line, the bottom excuse for us all, we're just plain afraid. I mean, you're intimidated, you're afraid. You know what the Word of God says? Love casts out fear. Doesn't it? That's the Word of God. If you're afraid to stand up for Jesus, His Word also says, He will not stand up for you. Right? Fear of rejection, it's your flesh taking over where your spirit really needs to. I am afraid. I don't, I've never really had victory in that area. I've never really seen a lot of success. This is not a church of 10,000. None of us have seen a lot of success in evangelism, have we? But that does not ever mean to stop. Not ever. I mean, I wish it would go better. I wish people would be more receptive. I wish the Holy Spirit would just fall and just watch people come by the truckloads, wanting more, wanting to hear more about God, wanting to know more about your testimony, how He changed your life, and how, why you got so much hope in your life. Well, because it's not in this life I have my hope, it's in the next I have my hope, right? I mean, why isn't that just an awesome thing to talk about tomorrow morning, or Tuesday morning if you have tomorrow off? I mean, God gives Moses an answer to his excuse. Whatever your excuse is. He says, I have made man's mouth. I made him dumb. I made him with the ability to see or to be blind. I put in intelligence or lack thereof. I've made them handicapped or healthy. God has made you exactly in His image, exactly for His purpose and kindness. We are not anything all alike. That's okay, and yet we are all alike. See? He says, I will be with your mouth. I will teach you what you must say. That's a great line to underline. A great word to underline. God's our teacher. Jesus said, I want you, church, to go and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, and I'll never leave you, I'll never forsake you, I'll be with you to the end of the age. That's an awesome promise for you, to gain a little courage, a little backbone, right? So 2018, you know what my motto was for 2000? I took the Nike motto. So 2017 was excuses, but 2018, our motto, Nike motto, what is it?
Just do it.
Just do it! That's what we're going to do. We're going to cast fear aside, and we're just going to do what God asks us to do. Amen.